The new Amaze only really looks new in its face. This is really significantly different. And then of course also the tail light treatment, which really stands out. Otherwise, you'd be forgiven, especially in this color, for really thinking that it's a very heavy facelift. So, does the new Amaze go further than that uncharitable first impression? Let's go. Despite having lost considerable ground in India, when Honda brings us a new generation of its bestseller, it gets our attention. It is very similar to the outgoing car. The stubby boot, the upright front treatment, and the exact dimensions and proportion of the previous generation are the reason for that. There are 3 trim variants: V, VX and ZX. Ground clearance has also gone up to an impressive 172 millimeters. Boot space is down by 4 liters. The Amaze now gets 6 airbags, ISOFIX, stability and traction control, 3-point seat belts with reminders as standard. And it also adds ADAS on the ZX trim. It's familiar, it's very refined, it's fairly smooth. But that's where the good bits start to end, because it's also fairly boring. It's not the sportiest, it doesn't, especially in sort of the lower revs, when you're in city driving, you find that, it's almost like, come on, let's move. The interior layout is nice, though it doesn't do anything revolutionary. Materials feel good, but the color palette is again way too similar to the last gen cars. Since the most obvious comparison is always going to be with this car, the Maruti Suzuki Dzire, I figured why not just get it into the story, only briefly, to try and explain to you how the two cars are different. Priced at 8,10,000 to 10 lakh rupees for the manual and 9,35,000 to 11,20,000 rupees for the CVT, it is competitive but positioned above the Maruti Dzire, Hyundai Aura and Tata Tigor. Unlike those, Honda does not offer a factory-fitted CNG, but does have an aftermarket dealer option that is covered by the car's warranty. So that was just our brief short review. The Amaze is decent value, it is a relevant car in its space and has a slight premium edge over some of its rivals, though it may not have as many variants or offerings as some of those other cars. But I will say this, the Dzire, with its 5-star crash rating, its standard safety equipment and even that sunroof, might seem like better value to some. Now let's get to the detailed review. Traditionally, the subcompact sedan was for those who desire more than the regular cars in this segment, or at least it used to be. The 4th generation Maruti Suzuki Dzire had arrived a month earlier and has seriously upped its game. So the Honda no longer stands out as the premium offering in the space. With this new Amaze, we get a lot from Honda. A lot of the same and a lot of new stuff. The first impression is that the car appears more like a facelift of its predecessor. It even has the same exact powertrain. So when it comes to design, as I was saying earlier, the car looks very familiar. At first glance, you wouldn't be really the only one who's going to think all of this looks exactly or very similar to the last car. Especially this part of the car, really stubby boot. Yes, I know the tail light's different. And then really vertical in the front. In fact, exactly the same length, exactly the same wheelbase. They haven't really changed a whole lot there. Some of that is intentional, some of that is a constraint of that whole sub 4 meter space. But in the front, you get that whole new design language. All Hondas everywhere are starting to look like this. Some people don't like it. It's a little polarizing, this very giant, big, upright grille. But you know what? It gives it a real character. The thick chrome on the top, again, too much like the older Hondas. So it'll be nice to get a little departure from that. But it looks premium. It looks well built. The DRL, the headlight cluster, all of that works quite nicely. And I actually like the vertical look. It's so different. At the back, you think it's a mini Honda City because it's got that kind of a typical tail light that has now become, well, what used to be called the BMW tail light, but now it's being called the Honda City tail light. It does look very much part of that family, And, looking like a mini Honda City is really the whole point of the Amaze, isn't it? The 1.2-liter engine. Now, it's always been in the Honda family. It's something we are used to. It's very refined, and those are some of the good things about it. It's familiar, it's very refined, it's fairly smooth. But that's where the good bits start to end, because it's also fairly boring. It's not the sportiest. It doesn't, especially in sort of the lower revs, when you're in city driving, you find that, it's almost like, come on, let's move. On the CVT, I'm dreading how that's going to feel. On the manual, they've tried to adjust some of the gear ratios to try and give you, shorter throws. It does give you a little bit of that responsiveness that you're looking for necessarily. But while it's very rev happy, this engine, till you cross about 4500 RPM, it's not really responding to you very much. Not as much as you'd like in any case. So the gearbox is also fairly refined. It is something that you're used to. What really irritates me is why Honda has still not migrated 5-speed on the manual. Come on, I mean, that's kind of par for the course these days, isn't it? Gear changes, also smooth, but you'll have to do a lot of them because of that issue I mentioned earlier in city traffic. And one more thing that really kind of bothers me a little bit, it's after all this while, Honda has still not got its sound damping right. I mean, even if it means spending a little bit of extra money, charging the consumer, all of that engine noise just kind of seeping into the cabin so easily. I'll tell you what I mean. Hold on. Yeah, that's just too loud. And it's going to get worse on the CVT. At least that's what my experience tells me. Let's switch to that car. What's really unfair is that we live in a world now where Honda doesn't want to give us a nice, spunky, sharp little turbo. And it also doesn't want to give us a nice, torquey diesel. So you're kind of stuck with these. Now, look, I talked about the refinement earlier, and that part I'm not going to take away. What is annoying is when you're in the CVT. Well, okay, here's the thing. Before I start to be critical about the CVT, let me quickly say that as technology goes, as drivability goes, I'd rather take a CVT over an AMT any day. It's a lot smoother, it's a lot nicer, it's just so much more pleasurable. And given how our city traffic is, despite what I'm about to tell you about the CVT, it is the variant to get because it just eases up your driving. I mean, you're not constantly changing gears. I told you, you've got to do a lot of that in that manual. So, what's the problem? Well, the problem is that like most CVTs, especially on an engine which is not a fire starter, you start to get a lot of this feeling of, I'm doing so much, but I'm not really going anywhere. Yeah, that's the problem. Rubber band effect. Call it what you like. Let me tell you what I'm talking about. All right, so I'm going to slow down, almost to a standstill, but not quite. And can you hear that revving? Wow. It takes its time to get up to those speeds. So when you're on the highway, when you want to quickly overtake, even though it has the paddle shifter, which is nice, it's just never going to be the same as a nice quick DCT. Yep, this thing takes its time. The good news though, it's fuel efficient. The CVT does stand out also against the competition for not being an AMT like all the others have. The Desire, for instance, should have had a regular torque converter auto like the Brezza does. Since the most obvious comparison is always going to be with this car, the Maruti Suzuki Desire, I figured why not just get it into the story, only briefly, to try and explain to you how the two cars are different. First things first, ride quality and the way the steering feel on this car is so different to that one. Yes, that's where the Honda will seem more grown up and more refined. The other thing, I am driving an AMT, so I'm kind of struggling with that horrible feeling of that AMT, waiting for things to happen, waiting for things to change. But I said this before too, where Maruti has now come with the refinement on AMTs, yeah, this is really great compared to the old AMTs. Surprised? Yes, this film has a cameo by a major A-lister guest star. The Desire and the Amaze are arch rivals. So rather than mention it in reference all the time, I figured, let's just bring it in. Today we have the Amaze in its manual and CVT avatars, and also the Desire in its AMT variant. So the newly launched Maruti Suzuki Desire has a lot of strong suits, especially this new generation that's just miles ahead of where the third gen was. Where the Amaze really redeems itself, ride quality and handling. The handling is all right. The ride quality is really nice, especially over some of the smaller bumps and stuff like that. The undulations on the road, it really absorbs it well. It's a soft suspension, but it's been tuned in a way where it can really respond to Indian conditions. Buyers will like that, even at the back. Ride quality in general on the Desire also feels more grown up. The car does feel bigger and more grown up than the previous car. And you know what? When you're driving it, you feel like this is a slightly larger car than the Amaze, which could be a good or a bad thing depending on what you like. I do feel overall this engine is a little bit more responsive, but yes, maybe the Honda comes across as more refined, as I was saying. The steering is way softer. A lot of people like that. But ride quality, while it's comfortable, handling superior on the Amaze. The Amaze also gets ADAS, which the Desire does not. It is level 2 and gets the expected suite of features. So everything from emergency braking to adaptive cruise control to even lane keep or road departure warnings and mitigation. The car also has 6 airbags as standard, along with ISOFIX child seat anchors, ABS or anti-lock brakes, and a bunch of other safety features. Many of those are standard. The Desire also has a lot of this stuff, barring the ADAS that I said, and it also doesn't have this. So yeah, that blind spot is a nice thing to have, that monitor, which shows you the little view from the camera on the left. But I'll tell you what, that you got to get used to it, because sometimes you're on your maps and you want to be able to see the next quick turn to the left, put on the left indicator, and bam, that screen is gone. So you got to have this little button in mind all the time on the stalk here to shut the camera off if you don't really want it. Still nice to have though, I won't deny that. Familiar layout once you get into the cabin. Nothing about this will surprise you, and not even in a bad way. It's all very comfortable and decent. The place where the word comfortable can't be used though, the front seats. They're just somehow extremely strange in the way they've been constructed. Under thigh support is really lacking. The back also, the angle, even if you keep adjusting it, it's not great, especially up here. You feel like the seat's kind of going away from you. The nice thing is that it is height adjustable, so at least you get a decent, good view of the road. But the ergonomics could just be better. You expect that from Honda. In terms of styling, the materials are decent. The plastics are also, I would just call them decent. But even though the palette seems to work, I'm not really sure what is going on over here. They're trying to keep that whole upright front grille look going on the inside. But dust nightmare this one is going to be once the car starts to age a little bit. The AC vents, they look like they're from 1982, and the screen looks like it's from about 5 years ago. Now, when you think about the competition, an 8-inch screen is not bad. The good thing about it, it works really well. It's very responsive. It could be a little brighter at times when you feel like you're in really bright sunshine, but otherwise, wireless phone connectivity, and it's standard. It's across all the 3 variants, which is nice. You also get this wireless charger for your phone, which is why I was hanging on to my phone all this while. What is also nice, like other Hondas, you can turn off that charging when you don't need it. Power outlet, 2 USB spots, no USB-C though, which is kind of strange. Small cup holders, and really this weird space which you can't use for anything. Up here, the instrument cluster is split between part virtual and part analog, like you've seen on the Elevate. It's a carryover. Works well. Engine start-stop button is visible, unlike many other cars. And steering, while the angle and the overall position is not bad, it of course can't be adjusted for reach. It's only for the angle up and down that you can actually use it. Buttons for all the climate control system, very welcome, which means you don't have to look at that and you don't have to operate it through this tiny screen. Well, since I had this car, might as well compare cabins too, right? First impression, palette-wise and overall layout, they're just so similar, these cars. In fact, on the outside, They're uncannily similar looking now. But on the inside, what is going on there? I mean, I remember saying this when I saw the car the first time. Terraced farming, anyone? I mean, what is that? There's just different colors, textures, finishes, materials. Way too much. So, of course, the Honda will come across as a little more understated, perhaps a little bit better put together. Huge 9-inch screen here, which is looking huge because of this big fat sort of housing. That's not great, but 9 is good. The lower variants get a 7. Honda played it safe, went with 8. You go figure that one. No virtual cluster. It's high time Suzuki got a virtual cluster in the mix across all its cars, so really that's boring. Nice climate control though. It's well put together. Again, there's buttons.
Hi, what can I do for you?
Then there's that and, nothing. Thank you. Cancel.
Sorry, I didn't get that. Please say that again.
Yeah, me neither. I didn't get that either. I don't know why that happened. But anyway, buttons, which is always nice to have for climate control. The seats are a whole lot more comfortable. They're also height adjustable, the driver's side anyway, and you've got better overall ergonomics on this car. That's something that kind of stands out. You got this optional sunroof. Nice to have, I guess, for some people. I don't think it's necessary. And, you've got these extra USB points over here. A, C, there's one of each. The rear passengers can access that as well. There's an extra A over here and a wireless phone charger. So overall, ergonomically better, a little bit good sense of that feeling of space. I guess that's one of the reasons the car remains popular. The back seat of the Amaze is nice though, with some misses. Use of space in the rear is not bad. Again, very similar to the other car. The color palette, almost signature Honda these days, very similar to the other car as well. Previous one that is, and overall sense of space is not bad. I have to say the rear seat, especially the back angle, is even nicer than the ones in the front. Drop down armrest, AC vents, that's nice always to have even in a small car like this one, and strangely only a power outlet and no USB point back there. I mean, come on, there are going to be a lot of people being driven in this car as well. That's a little bit of a miss. Now I get that at this price point you can't really have retractable sunshades, but these seat belts, at least they could have been beige. They could have been the same color as the seat. It would have just made the cabin seem so much more premium. The Amaze is priced competitively, though it is not aggressive as such. It maintains the Honda brand premium edge over its rivals on price and though in ways on positioning. But it is not a price band that sets the market on fire, especially when you compare to the Desire that is just so much more improved than before. Would you buy either car? And what is your general take on the new Amaze? Tell me in the comments below.